What's happening, everybody? Got to fire this off a little earlier than usual because we have games today. So we got to get a jump on it for anybody who's looking for start sit help for their fantasy playoff matchup, especially if it involves players going in today's games. We've got Bengals Vikings at 1 o'clock, Steelers Colts at 4:30, Broncos Lions at 8:15 this evening. So we got to get a jump on start sit questions this Saturday earlier than expected or earlier than usual. So we'll get into all of that. I'll review the most recent information we have as far as injury reports and expectations as far as who might play, who might not play. We'll go from there. As far as your start sit questions, I thought I pinned this. Can I not pin my own? Can I not pin my own comment? Just as much context as you can provide me as it pertains to your situation. What's the scoring? And what's your situation? Are you a favorite? Are you an underdog? Is it looking like an even match on paper? Context will be key as we sort through the best options that you have available to you for your playoff matchup. Hopefully y'all weren't like me and went against the Raiders defense in not one, but two playoff matchups. So that one hurt. I'm in an uphill battle in a couple of matchups, but it's only one game. There's a whole slate of games still to get through. There's still time. The most recent injury updates, and then we'll go from there. No surprises out of Houston. CJ Stroud and Nico Collins are both ruled out. It sounds like it's going to be Case Keenum and not Davis Mills for the Houston Texans. So the Tennessee Titans are looking like a really strong defensive stream. There's a lot of good streams this week. The Falcons are a good stream. I think the Bengals are a decent stream. The Colts are a good stream if they are available. If anybody dropped the Chiefs, I doubt that they are still available, but they could be. They are a good option. There's a lot of good plays. The Rams are a good option, although the implied total in that game is very high. And so I don't know that I necessarily want to chase the Rams. They haven't exactly had a stellar season on defense. This could be a good week for them. But Washington is decent enough on offense they'll give up sacks and turnovers, but they'll score points as well. So they might not be the ceiling play, but the Rams are a decent stream as well. So Tennessee looking like a decent stream. DJ Moore will play week 15. That is a huge boost for the Bears offense. You fire up DJ Moore even in a tough matchup against the Browns. And I'm firing up Justin Fields for an upside play. He's been playing better recently. The Browns have not been. They're still a defense that is worth firing up, but they haven't been as dominant as they were earlier in the season. Another week without Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs. Jerick McKinnon is a decent RB3 play, but it's a brutal matchup against New England. If there's one thing the Patriots do well this season, it's play the run. They are very good at stopping opposing running backs from putting up significant numbers. So McKinnon should be okay as a necessary pass catcher out of the backfield, given the state of the Chiefs wide receiver core, but you're hoping for a floor game and not necessarily a ceiling game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire cannot be considered. Tyler Higbee is likely to play tomorrow for the Rams, so any fanfare of Davis Allen probably needs to be curtailed We need to pump the brakes on that a little bit. Will he remain involved? I would think so. Will he be a guy that is worth streaming? Probably not. This one's a bit of a surprise. Darren Waller expects to play this week for the Giants against the Saints in New Orleans. He's officially listed questionable. You would have to be at the absolute bottom of the barrel to have to consider Darren Waller in his first game back to action after all of the time that he has missed. And with the state of the with the Giants offense, I know they did well against Green Bay, but on the road against New Orleans, no, New Orleans is not as dominant on defense as they have been in seasons past, especially at home. But it is still a tough spot. I would be looking to make other plans if you were considering Darren Waller, if you had him stashed on IR or anything like that. Both Packers running backs are listed questionable. Aaron Jones has missed the past 3 games. A.J. Dillon broke his thumb on Monday night. It's not a bad matchup at home against Tampa Bay, but I cannot in good faith advise on either one of those guys. We just haven't seen much from Jones this year and certainly not recently, and Dillon is just not that good. So if he's not getting any volume whatsoever, there's no way you can fire him up. Christian Watson is doubtful for week 15, so Jaden Reed certainly is a guy that you can fire up as a wide receiver 3. Romeo Doubs has flex appeal if you need him. It's a great matchup. Tampa Bay gives up a lot of production to opposing wide receivers, and at home, I would think Reed is absolutely on the radar for you, and Romeo Doubs is on the radar as well. Chris Olave will be a game-time decision. This one's tough. If you have viable options going today, you're probably going to be between them and Olave himself going tomorrow at 1 o'clock against the Giants. Olave is somebody that you absolutely want to hold out for, that you want to wait for. But with the 3 games today, your best alternative might be going today. So we can get into your specific situation if it involves Chris Olave. Generally speaking, I might err on the side of caution because if he doesn't play and your best alternate option goes today, then you're going to be stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and that's not an ideal situation. So I might ultimately determine that if your best alternate option to Chris Olave is playing today, maybe just play that player if they're not on the injury report. Amari Cooper is not on the injury report, so maybe he's an option for you. He's going to play tomorrow at home against the Bears. The Bears have been a lot better on defense recently, but at home with volume, Cooper should be fine. The Saints are getting some reinforcements back. Taysom Hill and Rashid Shaheed are both expected to play against the Giants. Potential expanded role for both if Chris Olave cannot go or is even limited. Noah Brown is listed questionable. Man, I don't think you can go with any Houston Texan this week, and maybe you can go with Dalton Schultz if you don't have a better streaming option at tight end. But it's going to be Case Keenum for the Texans. We already are down Nico Collins. We already lost Tank Dell a couple of weeks ago. Noah Brown is questionable. I mean, we're down to him and Robert Woods, and whatever the offensive line is banged up. So whatever Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce can provide is probably minimal. Wouldn't be expecting much there from Houston. Brandon Cooks expected to play. He's a boom bust wide receiver 3. Devon Achane listed questionable for week 15. Achane's a little frustrating with the amount of injuries that he continues to pick up. He is the upside play if you think you need upside. We can get into if you have Achane versus your other options. ideally, again, the games on Saturday make it difficult to have, potential, you might have a situation where you want to wait on a guy on Sunday, but you have a good alternate that you could turn to on Saturday. We'll get into all of that. Ultimately, Devon Achane is an upside play. If he goes, he's an RB2. He's incredibly volatile. If he's able, if he gets hurt in game, obviously you could say that about anybody, but somebody like Devon Achane, who has picked up numerous injuries this year, has been in and out of the lineup. He's got another injury that he's dealing with now. He's at a greater risk in that regard of, having to deal with the injury. However, his upside is incredibly tantalizing, and in the playoffs, we can't play scared. We can't play scared. If we feel like we need to be aggressive, then we play aggressive, and Devon Achane is an aggressive play. Like I said, we'll get into all of that. If you have Achane, if you're between him and a couple of other guys, we'll get into all of that. But he's certainly volatile. Marquise Brown and Michael Wilson are both listed questionable for Week 15. I got to think Marquise Brown is good to go. Michael Wilson, we haven't seen for a little while. He's not on the radar for fantasy lineups, but it would help in general. It would help Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense against the 49ers defense that you still fire up if you have them, but they are banged up going into this game. They're missing Eric Armstead. Dre Greenlaw is questionable for this game. I believe Javon Hargrave was on the injury report as well, so I'm not sure what his status is, but they are missing some pieces on defense. You still fire them up if you have them, but it certainly helps the Cardinals offense if they have their two main receivers. And then finally, Geno Smith is tracking to play on Monday night against the Eagles, so the Seahawks offense gets a little bit of a boost. In a good matchup against the Eagles. Good for the passing attack, good for DK Metcalf, good for Tyler Lockett, good for Jackson Smith and Jigba. The Eagles are still pretty tough against the run. However, at home, you probably still fire up Kenneth Walker. Okay, those are the most recent injury updates as it pertains to the slate over the next couple of days. I'll start taking questions now. Again, as much context as you guys can give me. I don't know why I can't pin my own. Did YouTube take away my ability to pin messages? It's kind of strange. Anyway, as much context as you guys can give me. Is it half PPR or is it full PPR? That is honestly, that's the most, that's probably the most crucial one, because that does change the answer depending on the situation. If you're between a running back or a wide receiver in your flex. Are you an underdog? Do you think you need to be aggressive? Are you a favorite? Can you just take the safe options? Or is it looking like a pretty even matchup? That context, at least on paper anyway, that context helps. Is it SuperFlex? Do you start 3 receivers versus 2? As much context as you guys can give me will certainly help things out as far as ultimately determining what we want to do for your lineup. And lastly, before I actually get into the questions, for anybody who's new in here, or if you've been around the block, just as a reminder, as I see my members coming in, I will get to my members' questions first. Those are line jumpers, as a perk of being a member of the channel. They will get their questions answered first. If you are feeling generous enough to donate a super, you don't have to, but the support of the channel is much appreciated. That would be a line jumper as well. If not, that's perfectly fine. I will get to everybody else in order. I just ask for some patience. And if you are, again, enjoying the engagement and the conversation, I only ask that you like the stream for algorithm purposes. Appreciate that in advance. All right, let's get into it. What's going on, Theo? Bengals, Bears, or the Seahawks defense? The Seahawks against the Eagles is not my favorite. They're not a great unit, especially stopping the run. I would think the Eagles get back on track, stopping the run or running the ball on Monday night. I don't love that spot for the Seahawks. The Bears on the road are not bad, but I don't expect the Bears to win that game. And a lot of times with a defense, sometimes a simple default is, do I think that team as a whole is going to win the game? If I think that team is going to win the game, that means that that defense is going to be in a better, more opportunistic situation to pick up sacks and turnovers. So while I don't hate the Bears in this spot, it's hard to truly endorse them because I just don't, I would expect Cleveland at home to be able to handle their business. But it's not a bad spot for the Bears. Ultimately, if these are your three best options, I would go with Cincinnati. They're a little volatile because Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson are good enough, even with the Vikings throwing out their fourth string quarterback at this point. Jefferson and Hawkinson are good enough to deliver. So that offers a little bit of concern. But the Bengals have been playing some pretty good defense at home this season. And at the end of the day, you feel best about your defense going against a fourth string or third string quarterback in Nick Mullins. Yes, he's got good weapons to throw the ball to. Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson are both elite options at their position and are must starts every single week, no matter what. But Nick Mullins is a huge question mark. If the Vikings had any confidence in Nick Mullins behind Kirk Cousins at the time that Kirk Cousins went down due to injury, they wouldn't have traded for Josh Dobbs. But they did. They tried that experiment out for a little while. It didn't work. And now they're going to Nick Mullins. So for me, that's the situation to target. That's the situation to target. I would go with the Bengals over the Bears and the Seahawks. Now, Bengals or Cowboys, I'd probably rock with Dallas even in a brutal situation. It's brutal because they're going against the Bills in Buffalo. Josh Allen at home is obviously a less than ideal situation. However, Dallas is a defense that got you here. You're in, one of the reasons that you are in the situation that you are is because of how good the Cowboys defense was this year. I would say if you're between Cincinnati and Dallas, Dallas is your floor play if you think you can play it safe. There is downside, of course, going against Josh Allen. There's no doubt about that, especially at home. But the Cowboys are a confident unit playing well. I would say that they are a safe play. Cincinnati is a more aggressive play with probably more downside, even though they are at home. But they are an upside play if you think you want to go upside. Obviously, you prefer, in a vacuum, you prefer a defense going against Nick Mullins over a defense that has to play Josh Allen on the road. So I understand the appeal for the Bengals. Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson are strong enough options for the Vikings to keep them, scary enough or concerning enough to not be able to totally endorse the Bengals. But you can go that route if you're just looking at your situation and thinking to yourself, I don't want to play the defense that has to go against Josh Allen. The Cowboys are the better unit. And that's why I would say they are your safe play, even in a brutal road matchup against Josh Allen. They are still your safe play because they are your best option from a talent perspective. Cincinnati has the better matchup, though. Matchups are obviously crucial when determining what defense you want to roll with. I'll say that they are your aggressive upside play if you want to swing for the fences. Being at home against Nick Mullins is certainly an endorsement for the Bengals. Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson are enough for me to not be able to 100% endorse them over a team like the Cowboys, even though they have a tough matchup on the road against Allen. I would say Cowboys are your safe play if you are a favorite or if it's an even match, if you feel like you're an underdog, maybe go Cincinnati. And you can play it aggressively. Full PPR. What's going on, Hunter? Good to see you, man. Do I start Mostert or Henry? If you can only play one of these guys, Mostert potentially without Achan at home against the Jets, or Derrick Henry in a matchup at home that he has historically dominated. Derrick Henry kills the Houston Texans for his career. It's a good matchup for Mostert as well. The Jets obviously have a good defense, but they've given up production to running backs this year at a pretty strong clip. Over the past 4 weeks, the Jets are the 7th most favorable matchup for opposing running backs. So that's to say it's a good matchup for running backs. It's a good spot for Raheem Mostert at home, especially if Tyreek Hill can't go. But if you can only pick one of these guys, I would prefer to play both. But if you can only play one, Derrick Henry at home with the Titans playing a Case Keenum-led Texans offense, this is a game at this point that Tennessee should handle. I got to think Derrick Henry bulldozes against the Houston Texans because his career against the Houston Texans has been just that. He has killed them. Have y'all ever used StatMuse? You could just look at a player's individual numbers against any one specific opponent or in any one specific situation. Derrick Henry, for his career, averages 19 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown per game against Houston. He doesn't catch the ball much against them for his career. He doesn't catch the ball much against them, but I mean, dating back to 2019, he has had four 200-yard rushing yard games against the Houston Texans since 2019. In the last 5 matchups for Derrick Henry against the Houston Texans, in reverse order, so most recent to least recent, Derrick Henry has gone for 126 yards and a touchdown, 219 yards and 2 touchdowns, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, 212 yards and 2 touchdowns, 211 yards and 3 touchdowns. Derrick Henry absolutely obliterates the Houston Texans for his career. I have to ride. I have no choice. I have to ride that wave. I have to ride that wave. Derrick Henry is an absolute machine against Houston. And yes, I want to play Raheem Mostert as well, but if I can only play one, I got to play Derrick Henry. What's going on, Jake? Good to see you. Major underdog. Me too, bro. I went against the Raiders defense in 2 freaking matchups. So I was coping pretty hard yesterday morning. But the week's not over. There's still time. There's still hope. It feels bleak, but there's still hope. Javonte or Ty Chandler. The higher ceiling play is Chandler. I don't think that Chandler is a better talent than Javonte Williams, but I do know that this is a better matchup for Ty Chandler. Javonte's workload has increased over the past month, which is great to see, but it is a bad matchup by the numbers on the road as well. The Detroit Lions are not a good matchup for opposing running backs. They're a bottom 6 matchup the past 4 weeks for opposing running backs. On the season, they're a bottom 3 matchup for opposing running backs. This is not a good spot for the Broncos' run game. The Bengals are a little bit more middle of the pack. So it's a better matchup for Chandler. And obviously, with Madison out, he's only got Kene Nwangnu behind him. Javante will still probably, seed work, especially if they're trailing to Samaje Perine and maybe Jaleel McLaughlin as well. If Javante Williams is coming off the field on third downs, we can't put him into our lineup. We need a guy who's going to be on the field. And, I would prefer to roll with the volume. At the end of the day, I want to, in these matchups, I want to roll with what I think is going to be the player with more volume. More volume means more opportunities, more chances, higher percentage, higher likelihood of getting a score, right? We need a touchdown from one of these guys. We need a touchdown. Could Javante do it? Sure, but he's in a much worse matchup on the road. I would give the nod to Chandler for this week. Chandler is the ceiling play. Javante is a little bit more of a floor play. If you need to be aggressive, I would probably chase Chandler. And he's not a zero as a pass catcher, so. Lions are holding opposing running backs to 3.5 yards per carry on the season, 80 yards per game. Neither of those are good for, that's not good news for Javante Williams. Meanwhile, the Bengals are allowing over 4.5 yards per carry. Running backs are having more success on the season and in general against the Cincinnati Bengals. Chandler is the upside play here. Javante's tougher to trust. All right, back up to where I left off. Fairly even on paper. Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Singletary. I don't like Clyde against New England. Of course, I'm not crazy about Singletary in his spot, but I hate Clyde's matchup on the road against New England. I don't think that this is a trap game for Kansas City in the sense that they will lose, but I would not be surprised if their offense struggles on the road against New England. Do I expect the Chiefs to get the win in some way, shape, or form? Yes. Do I expect them to have any success on the ground against a New England defense that has done very well on the season against opposing running backs? I can't in good confidence suggest Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think you got to go Singletary, even though his circumstances are less than ideal too, playing with Case Keenum. But Tennessee does have a couple of injuries on their defense, including one of their better run defenders. He's not playing this game. I got to go Singletary over Clyde. Let's see. Half PPR. Zay Jones, Zay Flowers, Deontay Johnson, or T. Higgins. You can only play one of these guys. I'm ruling out T. Higgins. It's possible, T. Higgins is at home. Maybe we see, the guy that we drafted high in drafts this year have a nice game, but we have nothing to go off of. with T. Higgins from this year. He's only had two really good games, and both came at the beginning of the season. Now he's down to Jake Browning, and the Vikings, credit to their defense. They've been solid this year. I don't know if I trust them as much today on the road, like dome teams coming to play outside in cold weather. I don't love that. It's tough for me to vouch for T. Higgins when we have seen so little of him. Um, I would go Flowers. I don't hate Deontay Johnson today. I do think there will be some volume there for him, but we're hanging on by a thread with Deontay. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky is not good. The Colts are pretty solid on defense. Yes, I would think that they have to throw today, Pittsburgh, and Trubisky certainly has eyes for Deontay Johnson, but give me Flowers with Lamar Jackson throwing him the ball. Mark Andrews is obviously gone, has been gone. Opportunities have opened up. Flowers has easily leapfrogged over Rashad Bateman. I don't think Odell's not on the injury report, right? I don't think he is. But I believe I'll double check this. Jacksonville can be had. Um, through the air. Yeah. Jacksonville is a top 5 matchup for opposing wide receivers. My answer is Flowers. Catching passes from Lamar Jackson. That's where I want to go. Give me the player playing with the best quarterback. That's where I want to go. Like last week, he was a little scrutinized or not last week. Week 14. He was scrutinized a little bit for a couple of drops. He still ended up with 6 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Flowers is my answer, and it's a great matchup. You got to go Flowers. Full PPR, Ford or Singletary? Ford, even though it's not a great match. Again, the Bears have been a little bit better. The Bears have been a little bit better on defense in general. But I will take Ford at home over Singletary on the road with absolutely, everybody's missing from the Texans offense. Stroud is out. Nico Collins is out. We already lost Tank Dell to IR to injured reserve a couple of weeks ago. And I know that the Browns are just down to Joe Flacco, but at least they have a good offensive line and their full complement of playmakers, with Amari Cooper being good to go for this game. I'll say Ford. Singletary is back to being in a disgusting committee with Dameon Pierce. Their offensive line is not as good a shape as Cleveland's is. I have to say Ford. As far as Jaden Reed, London, Chandler, okay, and then those two running backs. If this is only a start one, if it's full PPR, I think I'll take Jaden Reed. I don't want to play Drake London today. He's like, this is very simplistic, but just go look at if you have Drake London on your roster and you're thinking about starting him, just look at his home road splits. Look at what he does at home versus what he does on the road. He does quite well at home, and he does next to nothing on the road. I don't want to play Drake London today, or tomorrow, excuse me. In full PPR, it's between Jaden Reed and Ty Chandler, and I would go Reed. Christian Watson is doubtful. Reed looks like that team's best overall playmaker. And at home in a great matchup against Tampa Bay, they're going to need him. The Packers are desperate. They're still in the playoff race, but they lost to the Giants on Monday night. They need to play aggressive, and they need to get a win at home against a team that they should beat at home. Jaden Reed should be a focal point of what they do on offense, especially with those running backs both still questionable. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, both on the injury report. No confidence in either one. Jaden Reed in full PPR. For sure. Flex spot, full PPR. Mitchell, Javonte, Thielen, Warren, Foreman. Javonte is a safe-ish play, but again, it's a bad matchup. Keaton Mitchell is more of an upside play. In a decent matchup. Jacksonville, last 4 weeks, they're about middle of the pack. So not shut down, not one of the softest run defenses in the league, but certainly not one of the shutdown units either. They're more middle of the pack. Thielen against Atlanta, I have a hard time trusting. I know he put up some numbers last week, but I have a hard time. I have a hard time endorsing anything as it pertains to the Carolina Panthers. Warren today against Indianapolis, or Foreman on the road against the Browns. I will say in full PPR, if you are a favorite, if you are looking at your situation and you think you're sitting pretty, you think you're in good shape and you can play the safe play, then maybe go Thielen because it's full PPR and at home he should get a little bit of volume. Otherwise, I would go Keaton Mitchell. That's your upside play. That's your swing for the fences. And remember, it's the playoffs. So I get you want to be aggressive. Thielen is your safe play, even though it's not that safe. Keaton Mitchell is your upside play if you think you need upside. If you think you need upside, go Keaton. I would go Keaton Mitchell. Would I start James Cook over Garrett Wilson? In full PPR? I gotta say, like, kind of hats off to Garrett Wilson. He has, through all of the turmoil of the Jets season, he has salvaged this year with the numbers that he has put up for the most part. It's not like bona fide stud wide receiver one numbers that we were expecting when we drafted him, but he's been rock solid. James Cook is in the much better situation, the much better offense. They are getting James Cook the ball since they remember, since the Bills fired Ken Dorsey and brought in or elevated Joe Brady, they are getting James Cook the football. Last week was the first week in like 3 weeks that he didn't get 20 total touches, but he still got 15 and he put up a nice day. I think he had 5 catches. That if I told you right now that if I could tell you right now the running backs that you will get 5 catches, they're all in your lineup. They're all in your lineup. And in this game where there could be some real fireworks, James Cook is looking like a very strong option. If you can only play one of these guys, I would lean Cook because he's he is near the like the he's in the top 15 conversation for running backs. And while Wilson is probably in that same range for wide receivers, and the game script that we expect in that game figures to favor Wilson getting looks and opportunities, I'm always going to side with the running back. I'd give the slight nod. It's really, really close, like razor thin close. If you can only play one, I would side with Cook. I would side with Cook. This one's interesting. Njoku or Zay Jones in the flex? It is difficult for me to ever advocate for a tight end over a wide receiver. Um, yeah, it is difficult for me to ever advocate for a tight end over a wide receiver. And we can't expect Njoku to score 2 touchdowns again. He did it last week. We just can't expect that again. You can't expect touchdowns to just, to duplicate 1 week to the next. You know, you can't expect one, much less two. That being said, I would probably take Njoku. Zay Jones did get, I think he piled up like 14 targets with Christian Kirk out of the lineup. So he's absolutely on the wide receiver 3 radar. Njoku is a little bit more on like the mid-range tight end 1 radar. And I think that gives me the slight nod for Njoku. It is close. Again, I usually don't like advocating for a tight end over a wide receiver. But Flacco likes throwing the ball to the tight end. That is that's not just a result of last week. That has been over his career. Flacco likes throwing the ball to the tight end. Njoku is the direct beneficiary of that. I would go, between Njoku or a wide receiver 3 like Zay Jones, I would give the slight nod to Njoku. I would give the slight nod to Njoku. The Bears are like a middle of the pack matchup for opposing tight ends. The Ravens are a middle of the pack matchup for opposing wide receivers. I'll take Njoku. Slightly, but I'll take Njoku. 2 running backs and a flex. Well, you're starting Breece Hall. Is that Nico Collins? Collins has been ruled out. So he's not an option. You're starting Breece Hall. There's a lot of good options here. You're starting Tony Pollard. And you're starting David Montgomery. I mean, Montgomery at home. I got to play my Lions running backs at home, especially Montgomery. But behind that offensive line and the volume that those guys get, I have to play Montgomery and I have to play Pollard. You got a bunch of really good options. There's going to be a good player on your bench. You got to play Montgomery. You got to play Pollard. And I guess I would go. I know I said you got to play Breece, but I guess I would consider playing Mostert over Breece. Here's what I would do. You play Montgomery tonight, put him in one of the running back spots. You play Pollard, you can put him in the flex spot because he plays tomorrow. Or Hall and Mostert play tomorrow as well. If Achane is in, play Brees. If Devon Achane is ruled out, play Mostert. That's what I would do. Put Montgomery in one of your running back spots because he plays tonight. I would play Pollard in the flex spot. I guess it doesn't matter at this point. You could put him in one of those two spots. It doesn't matter. And then I would play Brees Hall if Devon Achane is active, and I would play Mostert if Devon Achane is ruled out. That's where I would go. I mean, I want to play Puka as well. There's a lot of good options here. But I think you got to go with those running backs. You got to go with those running backs. Yeah, Jake, I'm currently in a glass case of emotion. I went against the Raiders in 2 playoff matchups this week. Not 1, 2. I didn't expect Easton Stick to be that atrocious. I mean, yeah, that the second, I mean, you get 1 touchdown, like, okay, fine. It's a big swing, but to get the second one, that pick 6 where the dude came flying in, um that one was what hurt. That one was what hurt. So I wasn't crazy about the Raiders. I mean, I was fine with the Raiders defense, but I will admit on Thursday, I was telling people if you had like a stud defense that had gotten you to this point, like Cleveland or Baltimore or Dallas or San Francisco, I was saying just play those defenses. I'll take the L on that one. Didn't see like this 25-point explosion coming from the Raiders, but here we are. And go Reed over Beckham. Go Reed over Beckham. As far as those defensive options, I think I like the Falcons. The Panthers offense is the gift that keeps on giving this year. Of those options, I would go Atlanta. The under has hit, according to ESPN, the under has hit, and the under is the line is 33.5. That is atrocious. So basically, no points are being expected to be scored in this game. The under has hit in every Panthers home game this year. So basically, nobody is scoring any points. And with how bad the Panthers offense has been, they're giving up sacks at a crazy rate, highest in the league. I would go the Falcons. You have Baltimore. Baltimore's good as well. They would fit the mold of if they got you here, maybe just fire them up. Baltimore is a safe-ish play. Atlanta is an aggressive play. But maybe Baltimore's floor, maybe the Ravens' floor is probably higher than the Falcons. But it's possible the Falcons' ceiling is higher just going against Carolina. Jaylen Warren or Calvin Ridley in half PPR. Warren on the road against the Colts. That's not a great matchup. Ridley against the Ravens at home is a little bit of a better matchup. And obviously, with no Christian Kirk, you got to think. Ridley becomes the focal point of the passing attack. Actually, over the last 4 weeks, it's the Colts who are one of the top. They're a top 5 matchup for opposing running backs. In half PPR, maybe I'll go Warren. Maybe I go Warren. Najee's apparently fine, but he is nursing a knee injury. Warren is like on the RB2 roadmap. Ridley is on like the wide receiver 2 roadmap. I'll say Warren. I'll say Warren over Ridley. I'll say Warren over Ridley. Minshew or Nick Mullins? Minshew's at home, so I feel a little better about that, even though I don't love the matchup against Pittsburgh. Mullins is like the fourth string quarterback on the road against Cincinnati. You would think that the game script favors him throwing the ball, and he's got Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson to throw the ball to. So that's a boost for Mullins. The problem with Mullins is he is his team's fourth string quarterback. Didn't Jaron Hall get into a game before Nick Mullins did? Oh, Nick Mullins might have been on injured reserve or still, working his way back from injury. So maybe that doesn't necessarily count. He still is his team's quarterback 3. Again, if they had confidence in Mullins, they wouldn't have traded for Josh Dobbs to begin with after Cousins went down. Minshew is the straight up, backup. Well, prior to Anthony Richardson's injury, Minshew was the straight up QB2 for Indianapolis. I think I give the slight nod to Minshew. It's not a great matchup at home against Pittsburgh, but it is a home game. The Bengals are a better matchup by the numbers. Which favors Mullins. But Mullins is a QB3. Minshew is a QB2. I have to say Minshew. I don't love either one, but I would say Minshew is like Minshew is a floor play, and Mullins is, I can't even say Mullins is an all or nothing play. I think I would just go Minshew. I don't love it, but I would go Minshew. At least he's at home. One wide receiver and one flex. Well, Rachaad White is the flex. Rachaad White has been so goddamn good this year. He is in every single lineup. Rachaad White is an elite option, especially against the Packers, who are giving up a ton of points to opposing running backs. Rachaad White is an auto slam dunk. If your flex spot is all that is open for Rachaad White, you put Rachaad White in your flex. Between Kupp and Sutton, I would probably go Kupp. Play anybody that you possibly can against the Washington Commanders. That defense was bad with Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Ever since they traded those two guys, they are getting lit up at every level. That defense stinks. The Rams at home should have a field day. I expect the Rams to have an absolute field day on offense. Matthew Stafford is a great streaming option at quarterback. Kyren Williams is he's the RB2 on the week behind Christian McCaffrey with the volume he's getting plus the matchup. And then Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are both on the wide receiver 1 roadmap. Sutton has had a great season, but I think in this matchup, we saw signs of life again from Cooper Kupp last week. Against Washington, you have to play Kupp. You have to play Kupp. Sutton's had a great year. You have to play Cooper Kupp, and you have to play Rachaad White. You have to. Half PPR, Waller or Taysom Hill. I'll go Taysom. We've seen Taysom more recently. And with Chris Olave banged up, you can always expect a potential expanded role for a player like Taysom. We just haven't seen Darren Waller for a long time. I can't in good conscience suggest any player that we haven't seen for so long. We haven't seen Waller for weeks. It's not a great matchup by the numbers for Taysom, but Taysom is not a traditional tight end. He'll take quarterback snaps. He'll run the ball. Jamal Williams is on the injury report. He's questionable for this game. So if he's less than 100%, you figure Taysom Hill is the change of pace running back essentially behind Alvin Kamara. Yeah, Taysom. We haven't seen Darren Waller. I can't in good conscience suggest him. We haven't seen him for so long. When's the last time Darren Waller even played? And he himself is questionable. Taysom Hill's not on the injury report. Waller is. We haven't seen Waller since he went down in week 8. It's week 15. It's been almost 2 months. I can't play Darren Waller. I can't play Darren Waller. I gotta play Taysom. Gotta play Taysom Hill. Jake, I got your question, and best of luck once again. All right. If Achane doesn't play, who would be better between Hollywood, Gibson, or Odell? Gibson. He's going to get, you would think he gets the majority of the opportunities out of Washington's backfield with Brian Robinson out. Hollywood's on the injury report. Odell is not, but Odell is a little bit, streakier. Antonio Gibson is a guy that you fire up in a pinch this week. Chris Rodriguez could mix in a little bit, maybe as a runner. Gibson clearly Washington has soured on the idea of Gibson being a full-time running back. So Chris Rodriguez probably gets into the mix, but the implied total in this game is over 50. A lot of points are expected to be scored between the Rams and the Commanders, which probably means that the Commanders are going to have to throw the ball. Gibson is easily their best playmaker out of the backfield. You would think he catches a decent amount of passes tomorrow against the Rams in a beatable matchup. Marquise Brown is in a decent spot. San Francisco does give up points to opposing wide receivers, but he is on the injury report. And Odell is more in the flex conversation than what feels like a plug and play situation. I would say Gibson if Achane can't go. If Achane is in, rock with the upside of Devon Achane. But if he's out, or if we're getting any vibes tomorrow that he might be limited or less than 100%, then go Gibson. I would go Gibson. This might be Gibson's last chance to earn a role somewhere else. I think his contract is coming due. His rookie contract is coming due, and I don't think that the Commanders are going to bring him back. Yeah. Gibson's contract is up after this year. His rookie contract. So this could be a showcase for him. Maybe Washington's opportunity to get another one last extended look at Antonio Gibson to decide what they want to do with him in the offseason, because this is a team that is preparing for they're playing for 2024. So could be a showcase for Gibson. Decide what they want to do as far as do they keep him or not. Gibson. I would go Gibson. Let's see. Devin Singletary, Chase Brown, or Chris Rodriguez. I gotta say Singletary. I know Chase Brown broke out last week and we could be looking at a larger role for him. And he's probably in a better situation, even though name the teams that aren't playing with backup quarterbacks. That might be easier. Everybody's playing with a backup quarterback. Singletary's playing with a backup quarterback. Singletary's playing with a backup offense. But you figure he'll be the guy for Houston, the 1A in that backfield. Chase Brown, still probably the change of pace guy behind Joe Mixon. We can't confidently say that Chase Brown is going to have a role the size that Devin Singletary will have, and Houston might funnel opportunities to the running backs with how banged up they are at wide receiver. I mean, Chase or Devin Singletary and Damian Pierce might both be, if you're in a less than ideal situation, they might be okay to turn to because Houston might funnel opportunities to them. Um, Chris Rodriguez, again, he has the most volatile role here. We just don't know how many opportunities he's going to get. It's tough to advocate for him, even within the absence of Brian Robinson. Um, I would say Singletary. I don't love it, but I would say Singletary. He has of these three guys, he has the role that we feel the most confident about, I guess. Yeah, I'll say Singletary. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you, man. Um, you got the bye week. Congrats, dude. Um, nah, we'll worry about like, Trevor Lawrence next week when you actually have a game to worry about. Stafford is in a great spot today. Um, but you're not playing today, so you're fine. And next week against Tampa Bay, I mean, they're getting killed by opposing wide receivers, which it's not a bad spot for opposing quarterbacks. We're fine. We're okay. But congrats on the bye week. But nah, don't worry about that type of stuff until next week. You sit back, you kick your feet up, have a smoke or a drink or whatever it is y'all do to celebrate. Um, yeah, we'll worry about next week. Next week, enjoy your bye week. I'm sweating things out over here because I had to go against the Raiders defense in 2 spots. But that's my problem, not y'all's. Um, Back up to where I left off. Swift or Montgomery? Swift is in a beautiful matchup, but you have to play David Montgomery at home. You have to. I want to play both. But you have to play David Montgomery. Detroit's running backs in most situations are must starts. They are especially must starts at home. You have to play David Montgomery. Swift should be good on Monday night against the Seahawks defense that is getting killed by opposing running backs, but Swift's role is not it's like it's kind of up and down for that Eagles offense. Montgomery's role, you know what it is. He's getting involved, especially at home. You got to play Montgomery. You got to play Montgomery. Um, if Olave doesn't go, do you play Taysom Hill over Njoku? Um, if it's standard, if there's no PPR, then yes, because Taysom Hill will get opportunities on the ground. Um, Especially if Jamal Williams can't go or is less than 100%. Because again, Jamal Williams is on the injury report; he's questionable, which means that Taysom Hill could see more opportunities as the change of pace, like you know, running quarterback, the weird Swiss Army knife role that he has for New Orleans. If Olave is out, then yes, I would play Taysom Hill. If Olave is in, you can stick with Njoku. But if Olave doesn't play, I am fine swapping Taysom Hill in over Njoku. Yes, I would. Especially if it was half PPR or full PPR, I would have a little bit more pause. But if it is standard scoring and Olave is out, yes, play Taysom Hill because he'll run. Start two in half PPR. Deontay, Gus Edwards, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton, and Devin Singletary. Or you could grab Ty Chandler. I think of this group, I would probably go Sutton over Ridley. Um, Ridley's in I guess, a little bit of a better spot being at home. It's just a tough matchup against the Ravens, man. They're pretty good against receivers and against slot receivers in particular. If assuming, if the Jags move Ridley into the slot a little bit more frequently. Um, the Lions are middle of the pack against opposing wide receivers, so that's where you can beat them on defense is through the air. Um, Given these options, I don't want to play I'm ruling out Devin Singletary. I just don't like the spot that the Houston Texans are in with Case Keenum and no wide receivers. Um, I'm ruling out Devin Singletary. I prefer Ty Chandler over guys like Deontay over Gus Edwards. I would pick up Ty Chandler. If you have to drop, Gus Edwards to do that, then fine. I don't think Gus has been kind of quiet recently, right? I like Gus Edwards, I do, but he's kind of just a plotter. Yeah, he's been quiet the past couple of weeks. It's not a bad matchup today, or excuse me, tomorrow. But he has a brutal stretch these next couple of weeks, because after today, you're not going to want to start Gus Edwards on the road against San Francisco. I think that's Christmas night. You're not going to want to play Gus Edwards, so I would drop. I guess if it has to be Gus, unless you've got another guy on your bench that's not in consideration here, who's even lower than any of these guys, I would pick up Ty Chandler. I would play him, and I would also play Cortland Sutton. Deontay is a middling option that I don't love. Ridley is a decent option, but it's a tougher matchup going against Baltimore. And I don't want to play Edwards or Singletary. I would say grab Ty Chandler and fire him up and fire up Cortland Sutton. I think that's where I would go. Full PPR, you need Achane or Zach Moss. Ugh. Moss. Achane is the upside play. And obviously a guy that you would normally want to wait on. But if your best alternate option is Zach Moss, then fire up Zach Moss. I know that the numbers have not been there the past couple of weeks with Zach Moss. But what has been there is the volume. And he's going to get that one more week, well, it's today, against Pittsburgh. The Steelers, over the past 2 weeks, have gotten absolutely lit up by Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner. The Steelers have gotten absolutely crushed by running backs the past 2 weeks. At home, I think the Colts are slight favorites. I am okay one more week going back to the well with Zach Moss, even though the numbers were not there at the end of the day last week or the week before. If your choice is Zach Moss or wait for Devon Achane, and there's a drop off in options if Achane is ruled out tomorrow, then just play Zach Moss. I would just play Zach Moss. Yeah. If you're between Achane or Zach Moss and there's a drop off in options after those two guys, just play Moss. Achane is on the injury report once again. That's dicey. That's playing with fire, and you've got a decent guy to turn to. I think Moss at home can come through with at least a floor play with some volume. Remember, he got into the end zone, but it got called back due to a penalty. If the fortunes reverse course today, you'll be happy with Moss's output. Got to play Moss. Tiago, thank you for the super. That was very kind of you. Much appreciated. Raishi Rice, or is that Justin Jefferson? I don't know any other Jeffersons. Um, you have to play Justin Jefferson. Rice is on a roll and is the only viable wide receiver that the Kansas City Chiefs have. Sky Moore is not it. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is not it. Kadarius Toney flashes playmaking ability one week and you know and boneheadedness the next. Raishi Rice is the only viable option that the Chiefs have as a straight up wide receiver. But we're talking about the guy that was probably drafted first or second overall in your drafts this past season or this past draft. You have to play Justin Jefferson. I know he picked up the injury last week and he exited the game and all that. He's active, he's going. He is the best wide receiver in football, even at less than 100%. If he is, you have to play Justin Jefferson. It's win or go home. You drafted him whether you drafted him or maybe you bought low or maybe you traded for him while he was banged up or on the shelf or anything like that. Regardless, he was drafted as high as you can go. He was the first or second pick in full PPR. He was probably the first pick. If he wasn't, he was the second pick. He's back. He's in the lineup. It's win or go home. And he was the first or second overall pick. You have to play Justin Jefferson. You have to. It's almost like you have no choice. Yeah. We got to play Justin Jefferson. We have to. Um By the way, it was just reported that Eagles cornerback Darius Slay is undergoing arthroscopic knee surgery and will not play on Monday night against the Seahawks. So huge news for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I guess, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. But Smith-Njigba is going to be. I really like Smith-Njigba, but I just hate that landing spot. He's behind. He's tough to trust any given week, but it is a great matchup. Just needed to throw that out there. Yes, fire up Justin Jefferson with full confidence because we have no other choice. We have to. This is the best wide receiver in football we're talking about. You have to play him. But appreciate the super, Tiago. Thank you so much. Okay, back up to where I left off. Dev, appreciate the kind words. Yeah, I do just ask, if you guys are enjoying the engagement. I know that I get involved with my answers to you guys, and so I know that you guys have to exude, exercise some patience sometimes getting to me, but or getting to your questions. But if you are enjoying the engagement, the dialogue, the conversation, I do just ask that you like the stream for algorithm purposes. So appreciate that. Let's see. Tua or Goff? Tua's got the Jets with potentially a less than 100% Tyreek Hill. Goff goes tonight against the Broncos. And it's a tougher matchup for Tua having to go against the New York Jets. I think you have to wait for Tua. I got to imagine the Lions' game plan tonight revolves around the running backs. And, obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta are top-level players at their position. But Tua's upside is too tantalizing. If Tyreek Hill is able to play, do we have any? I got to see if there are any more recent vibes about Tyreek Hill. Remember, he got back into the game last week. So this is I think he's on the injury report out of an abundance of caution. He missed practice all week. Man, I thought I saw that he got in a limited practice on Friday, but he did not. Tyreek Hill did not practice all week. That is not a great sign. Tua potentially without Tyreek Hill, and it looks like the vibes are a little bit more pessimistic on Hill than they are optimistic. Um, uh, I guess I would play. I guess I would go Goff. I don't love it. I don't love it, but the vibes appear to be more pessimistic about Tyreek Hill than they are optimistic. I think I would go Goff. The Jets are a tougher matchup for opposing quarterbacks by the numbers than the Broncos are. The Broncos are not a great matchup by the numbers over the last 4 weeks for opposing quarterbacks, but they're more favorable than the Jets are. And if Tua is without Tyreek Hill, his ceiling is absolutely gone. Goff. Goff over Tua, even though I don't love it. Goff over Tua, even though I don't love it. The vibes around Tyreek Hill are not very good. Half PPR, Jaden Reed or DeAndre Swift. Swift is the upside play. Reed is your maybe floor play. It depends on how aggressive you want to be or feel like you need to be. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson is doubtful for that game. Jaden Reed at home in a great matchup figures to come through. Swift is the ceiling play. His floor is lower, but his ceiling is higher. This matchup is stupendous. The Seahawks are getting crushed by opposing running backs. The problem is we can't say with any type of confidence week to week what DeAndre Swift's role is going to look like. Jalen Hurts has just been updated to questionable. What the hell's going on there? Hang on a second, because this pertains to DeAndre Swift potentially. It looks like Jalen Hurts was just added to the injury report. Why was he added to the injury report? Give me 1 second, folks. Stay put or stay. Just give me 1 second. I'm just trying to look up if there's anything about Jalen Hurts. He was just illness. Okay, illness. All right. Jalen Hurts is sick. He's dealing with an illness. Doesn't sound like it's an injury. He's still expected to play on Monday. We're good. My answer stands as far as Jaden Reed versus DeAndre Swift. Jaden Reed is your floor play. Swift is all or nothing. Well, I wouldn't say all or nothing. Swift is your ceiling play, but his floor is lower than Jaden Reed's because his role week to week is unpredictable. However, this matchup against the Seahawks is great by the numbers. Reed is a little bit safer. Swift is a home run shot. So it just depends on what you need. Pick 2, Jaylen Warren, Chase Brown, Taysom Hill. Warren, the matchup is pretty good by the numbers. The Colts are giving up decent production to opposing running backs the past 4 weeks. Between Chase Brown and Taysom Hill, without knowing the scoring, Chase Brown plays tonight or today, literally in about 40 minutes. Taysom Hill goes tomorrow. We're not going to know until tomorrow if Chris Olave is available for that game. I expect that we will see more of Chase Brown. I expect that he will get a more expansive role. I think Jaylen Warren has to be in of this group. Chase Brown would be an incredibly aggressive play. He would be an incredibly aggressive play. His floor is low because remember, he popped off some huge plays last week, and those are difficult to duplicate, to replicate. Um, 8 carries for 25 yards, nothing really to write home about there. Where he made his mark, what he caught 3 balls for 80 yards, and one of them was a big play for the touchdown. Um, Chase Brown is an incredibly aggressive all or nothing play. Taysom Hill is a little bit more of, if you can call it safe, I would call Taysom Hill a bit of a safer play. Chris Olave is questionable for that game against the Giants. Jamal Williams is on the injury report. He's questionable to play. Um, I would say Taysom Hill is your safe play, and Chase Brown is your all or nothing moonshot play, but his floor is low. His floor is low. So if you want to play it safe, I would go Taysom Hill. If you think you need to be aggressive, I guess Chase Brown, but just keep in mind his floor is low. His floor is low. Warren for sure. Warren has to be in. Deontay Johnson or DJ Moore, I'll go Moore. Moore's been really good this year, and it's not a great matchup. I believe Denzel Ward is back for the Cleveland Browns. He's listed questionable. Okay, so he's still not even like off the injury report. You got to play DJ Moore. You got to play DJ Moore over Deontay. The big play is more likely from DJ Moore. Justin Fields has been funneling opportunities to him. It's got to be DJ Moore. You got to play DJ Moore over Deontay. Deontay's tough to trust as a wide receiver 3. DJ Moore is a little bit more of like a wide receiver 2. It's not a good matchup, but Fields has been funneling opportunities to him. You have to play DJ Moore. And with Denzel Ward, he's only questionable. So even if he plays, he might be less than 100%. It's got to be DJ Moore, even though the matchup is not great. Lockett or Ty Chandler in the flex. It's a spectacular matchup for Tyler Lockett. We haven't seen the Tyler Lockett of old this year. I'll take the opportunity that Ty Chandler has today, and I will fire up Ty Chandler. I'll go Ty Chandler over Tyler Lockett. It's a great matchup for Lockett. He just hasn't been the Tyler Lockett of old this year. Chandler is going to get every opportunity out of that backfield. And he has a good matchup too. Like, yes, Lockett has a great matchup, but by the numbers, Chandler's got a decent matchup too. The Bengals do give up production to opposing running backs. So yeah, I'll go Chandler. Chandler over Lockett. What's going on, Crumply Heads? Good to see you, dude. Do you have to pick somebody up? Or can you just hold all 3 and say, screw it, put a vice grip on the options that people have as far as, defensive streams? Like, is there somebody worth grabbing? Like off of waivers? Because the Saints are great the Saints have great matchups. The Rams have great matchups, and the Broncos have great matchups. I wouldn't want to play the Broncos tonight on the road against Detroit, so I guess that would be my choice if I had to make a call, if you have to drop one. But the Broncos have good matchups in week 16 and week 17. So they're certainly viable. Maybe not tonight. Oh, then you okay. So you have so it's for like a legal lineup. Um it's for a legal lineup. I would drop the Broncos. I would drop the Broncos because I'm not advocating for them tonight at on the road against Detroit. I would drop the Broncos. Keep the Saints. I would play the Saints. I would play the Saints against the Giants, and I would drop the Broncos so that you can put Mixon in your lineup. That's where I would go. And yeah, Hurts is sick. He's got an illness. That's why he popped up on the injury report. Apparently, he's going to be fine for Monday night. So hopefully, he just gets over quickly whatever it is that is ailing him. So, yeah, drop the Broncos, play the Saints. All right, where did I leave off? Half PPR, Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, Tyler Lockett, or Zay Flowers. I'm inclined. Najee's in a great matchup. Najee's in a really good matchup, but apparently he's dealing with a knee injury. How serious it is anybody's guess, to be honest. Flowers is in a spectacular matchup. The Jaguars give up a lot of points to opposing wide receivers, and of course, he gets to catch passes from Lamar Jackson. Javonte is more on the flex radar for me than like an obvious running back start, given the matchup. The Lions are stingy against opposing running backs. It's not a great matchup. I'm not really considering Tyler Lockett, to be completely honest. It's between Najee and Flowers. Najee is your safe play. Flowers is more of an upside play. So if you're a favorite, if you're feeling good about your chances and you think you have just a better team than your opponent and you can play it safe, I would go Najee. If you think you need to be aggressive in any way or if you want to play for upside, I would go Flowers. So it depends on what you need given your matchup and situation. Yeah, Najee safe and Flowers upside. Just depends on what you need. Let's see. Full PPR, you have Cook and Zach Moss, okay. And you've got Garrett Wilson and Jaden Reed. Would I take Garrett Wilson out of my lineup for Ty Chandler? I don't know that I can do that. In full PPR, I think you got to play Garrett Wilson. Credit to Garrett Wilson. I mean, with all the turmoil that the Jets have gone through this year, specifically on offense, Garrett Wilson has been he has delivered more weeks than not. Against the Miami Dolphins, which his opponent tomorrow, week 12 against Miami, that was the Black Friday game with Tim Boyle. He caught 7 balls for 44 yards and a touchdown. So the matchup certainly isn't that concerning. And honestly, he's been better with Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson is the starter again. I think you have to leave it the way you have it. I would fire up. I would continue to go back to the well with Garrett Wilson. I wouldn't make any changes. Moss over Chandler, James Cook over Chandler, Garrett Wilson over Chandler, and in full PPR, I'll take Jaden Reed over Ty Chandler as well. I think you have it. I think you have it right. I think you have it as I would do it too. Like if this was my lineup, I would be doing the same thing. Bears or Bengals, Theo? Maybe you missed the answer off the top. I slightly lean Cincinnati, even though both are dicey. Cincinnati has to go against Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, which is not great, but they do get a third string quarterback in Nick Mullins at home. And the Bengals have been decent at home on defense. So there are some elite playmakers that the Vikings have on offense, but I'll take the Bengals at home over the Bears on the road. The Bears have been playing better on defense, and it's not like the Cleveland offense is like the scariest in the league, but I don't have any confidence in saying that the Bears win that game, and I like targeting defenses who I think their team will win the game. That puts the defenses in more opportunistic situations more often than not. If a defense is playing with a lead, they can tee off for sacks and making attempts to force turnovers. I'll give the slight nod to the Bengals. The Bears are not. I don't have as much confidence in the Bears on the road. Um, I'll take the Bengals. I'll take the Bengals. Do I like Devontae? Yeah, we like Devontae Smith this week. I wouldn't take him out for Rice. I mean, Garrett Wilson has a viable argument, but I'll take the player in the better situation at this time of year if I can. Catching passes from Jalen Hurts is better at the end of the day than catching passes from Zach Wilson. Yes, Garrett Wilson is the focal point of that passing attack, and Devontae Smith isn't necessarily that every single week for the Eagles with A.J. Brown there. I think I would just keep Devontae Smith in on Monday night. I would just keep Devontae Smith in. What am I doing with Eckler and Keenan Allen next week? Well, I don't even know if Keenan Allen's going to play. Who do they have next week? The Bills? I mean, if you've advanced, if it's a bye week or whatever, or if you've advanced already, first of all, congrats. But looking ahead to next week, I mean, I'm not trying to cop out, but it's kind of like I'll worry about next week. I don't feel good about how can you feel good about the Chargers offense the rest of the season? If you advance and you have Austin Eckler, I mean, yeah, depending on your other options, you might want to sit him. You might want to sit him. I mean, I've no if Keenan Allen is hurt or doesn't play, well then that makes it easy. But I mean, if Eckler goes, I think they play the Bills next week. So I don't feel great about that. It's a home game, but I mean, does that even matter? Yeah, I don't feel good. I don't feel good about how can you feel good about the Chargers offense rest of season after what we saw on Thursday night? So we're playing it day by day with Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, but there's no way you can feel good about them for the rest of the season. Need 2.5 PPR. Warren, Gibson, Chandler, Lockett. Not Lockett. It's two of these three running backs. Warren probably has, Chandler has the safest role. I would say he's an upside play. Gibson is an upside play. Warren is a safe play. So I think the guy of your questions, or of your guys, of your options, between Jaylen Warren, Antonio Gibson, and Ty Chandler, the guy whose role I can most confidently say will happen or that we can bank on is Chandler. So I would play Chandler. Coming up here at the top of the hour, and then it depends on what you need. Do you need upside? I would go Gibson. Can you play it safe? If you feel like you're a favorite, then I would go Warren. If you think you need to be aggressive, I would go Gibson. Uh, if you think you need to be aggressive, I would go Chandler and Gibson. If you think you can play it safe, I would go Chandler and Warren. Warren's in a good spot tonight, but he'll split work with Najee Harris. Gibson is in a good spot tomorrow based on what we expect that game to look like as far as pace of play and game script. But Chris Rodriguez might mix in for Washington. Chandler has the running back workload for Minnesota locked up today. So I would go Chandler, and then Warren is your safe play. Gibson is your upside play. Sit one between Ford, Chuba, and Chandler. So I would probably play Chandler. And I guess I would play Chuba. It's not a great matchup. Atlanta is pretty stingy on the against the run, but Chuba is getting funneled like 25 opportunities a game over the past couple of weeks. Ford is the difference here between these three guys is only one of them is in a committee, and that's Jerome Ford. It's not a bad matchup against Chicago, but Kareem Hunt is regularly usurping opportunities from Jerome Ford. Miles Sanders isn't really doing that at the same rate for Chuba Hubbard, and there's nobody else for the Vikings today. After Ty Chandler, you've got Kene Nwangwu, who is a special teamer. I would play Chuba and Chandler, even though Chuba's not in a great matchup. I would sit Ford. Is Geno a start? I mean, depending on who your other options are. Does this involve Tua or Goff? Was this the question that involved Tua or Goff? If you're between Tua, Goff, or Geno, then I would go Geno. The problem with that plan is you're waiting until Monday night when you're literally out of options. I guess you could pick up Drew Lock as a last ditch effort or as a desperation play. But if that's the Tua or Goff question, and if you can include Geno in that, then yeah, I would play Geno. He returned to practice in a limited fashion, so that his odds of playing are good. I guess you could pivot to Drew Lock if you had to, but the Eagles secondary is getting absolutely decimated right now by opposing quarterback play. Plus, they don't have any linebackers, so that puts their tight ends, Seattle's tight ends, in play as well, even though they're not very, noteworthy most weeks. If Geno plays, yes, I would prefer to play him over guys like Goff or Tua. Yeah, he is a start. And if Geno doesn't go, then you could desperation grab Drew Lock, and he might honestly be okay with how bad the Eagles have been in the secondary and on defense in general. And now Darius Slay is out, so. Tajay Spears or Chase Brown. This could be a game for Tennessee where they don't have to. Houston is down to Case Keenum and a ragtag crew at wide receiver. This could be a big Derrick Henry game. This could be a really big Derrick Henry game. Spears should mix in because he has earned a role just in general in this offense. But I got to imagine Chase Brown has a greater opportunity, I guess, to get a little bit more involved than Tajay Spears. It's close. I really like Spears. I do. I like Spears a lot. And he's a great change of pace guy that, not too many players, not too many running backs can say that they have forced a committee of some kind with Derrick Henry. So credit to Tajay Spears. But this might not be a game where he's needed as much. I mean, maybe he mixes in as a runner. But Tennessee should have this game kind of in hand, given the situation that Houston is dealing with on their offense. I think I'm talking myself into liking the Titans defense as a good stream this week. Spears is a floor play. Brown is an all or nothing play. Brown is a little bit more of a home run play. In full PPR, generally I would say Spears, but again, game script might not be in his favor this week. Tennessee might not have any trouble handling their business against the Case Keenum-led Houston Texans with no wide receivers. And with 15 minutes before kickoff, let me run through and see if there are any questions that involve this game. So Tajay Spears is a floor play. I don't think his ceiling is available this week, but he does have probably maybe a decent floor. Chase Brown is the upside play, but his floor is lower than Tajay Spears. So it depends on what you need. Spears, maybe like the safe-ish play with a little bit of downside. Chase Brown has upside, but his floor is lower. We just don't know what his role is going to be. Let's see. Laporta or Hawkinson? If you can only pick one, I got to go Hawkinson. This is a great matchup against the Bengals. Fire up Hawkinson here coming up in the next 15 minutes. I want to play Laporta, but if you can only play one, you got to play TJ Hawkinson. Ty Chandler or Jaylen Warren? I'll go Ty Chandler. Again, Warren is a perfectly fine option, but he's going to split work with Najee Harris. Ty Chandler has the backfield to himself. I'll take the volume. For better or worse, I'll take the volume. Go Chandler. I see some questions that don't involve the Vikings and Bengals. I will get to them, but I'm going to jump around to grab anything that pertains to today's game. So just sit put. Sit tight. I will get to everybody who has a start-sit question that does not involve players in this game coming up. I will get to you. I think I'm leaving off at Brandon. Brandon, Alex, sit tight. I will get to any questions shortly, but let me jump to any questions that pertain to this game coming up. Walker or Chandler? I don't think you could sit Kenneth Walker, man. I don't think you could sit Kenneth Walker. What is his status? I don't see anything about him being on the injury report. I think at home, you have to play Kenneth Walker. I mean, I think you got to play Walker over Chandler. I do. I like the spot that Chandler is in today, but I'm still firing up my regular suspects, my usual suspects over Ty Chandler. That includes Kenneth Walker. I would play Walker over Chandler. Again, I'm just jumping down to make sure that I'm getting questions as it pertains to this game. Bengals, Vikings first. I will. If you think I skipped you, I probably did. If it doesn't include this game, I will jump back up and get to everybody. Let me get to this Vikings-Bengals game first. Pick two from Ty Chandler, Najee Harris, Jerome Ford, Tajay Spears. Chandler and Chandler. I would play Chandler for sure. And then Najee versus Ford. I can't consider Spears here. That's tough. Najee versus Ford is very close. I'll give the slight nod to Jerome Ford because he's not on the injury report and Najee Harris is. Both are decent RB2 options, maybe RB2 flex options. I'll take the guy who's not on the injury report, and that's Jerome Ford. But I would fire up Chandler. I'm thinking of the Steelers running backs. Again, I'm looking at questions as it pertains to this game coming up, and then I will jump back up and get to everybody else. Pollard, Moss, or Mixon. If you can only play one, Pollard. I want to play Mixon today if you can, but if you can only play one of these guys, I would go Pollard, then Mixon, then Moss. Do I like Mixon today? I mean, yeah, I like Mixon today. Yes, I want to fire up Mixon if I can. Um, yes, I mean, you fire up a guy like I'm not worried about his role as it pertains to do you start Joe Mixon worrying about Chase Brown. Um, Chase Brown looks good, but you're firing up Mixon. Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, you have to play Chase. I know, it's Jake Browning, blah, 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 but Jamar Chase is just the better player. Play the better player. Like, for talent wins out. You got to play Chase. Start one, Chuba, Javonte, Najee. I guess I would go Chuba. He's the one who's got the role. I see you said you got to leave soon. So Chuba, he's the one who has the workload. He should see 20, 23 opportunities because that's what he's been getting the past couple of weeks, even though it's not a great matchup against Atlanta. Javonte's in a bad spot tonight, and Najee's on the injury report. Okay, I think I got everybody that involves this game. Browning or Mayfield, I'm giving the slight nod to Browning. I don't love the spot today, but I don't like Mayfield's spot even more. I'll take the guy. Give me the backup quarterback at home. It's close, but I'm giving the slight nod to Jake Browning. People are expecting him to kind of take, like, there's some regression expected with Browning, but I mean, he's got good weapons to throw the ball to. And he's at home. I'll take Browning. And yeah, Crumbly Heads, even with Lockett or even with Geno likely playing, I still go Sutton and Mixon over Lockett. Yes, definitely Mixon. Fire up Joe Mixon today. Obviously, if you have to pick between him and somebody like Tony Pollard, then play Pollard. But, play Mixon today for sure. Okay, I will move back up to the top. I wanted to make sure I got questions that pertain to this game coming up here. So I'm moving back up. I got Laporta or Hawkinson. That is Hawkinson. And Ty Chandler over Warren. Kupp, Pollard, or Gibbs. You can only play one of these guys in full PPR. I mean, I really like Kupp's matchup, but I mean, we're talking about some big time players at running back. Kupp. You can only play one. Kupp. I'll take Kupp in full PPR in a spectacular matchup against Washington. I would expect the Rams offense to have a field day tomorrow. I would play Kupp. Walker or Chandler. I got that one. I would go Walker. Start to McBride, McLaurin, DK, Deontay. Metcalf for sure. Metcalf's a must start. And do I like Trey McBride over Deontay Johnson? I might. I think I do. I'll take McBride. He's been a mainstay in that Cardinals offense. The wide receivers for the Cardinals are both on the injury report, Marquise Brown and Michael Wilson. I'll take DK Metcalf and Trey McBride. I don't trust Terry, and Deontay is a middling option that hopefully you have better alternate options that you can pivot to. And I think you do. I would go DK and I would go Trey McBride. DK for sure. You have to play DK. All right, I'll jump down again if I see any questions that involve this game coming up in 10 minutes. So I see one that just popped in. I will get to everybody. I know I'm bouncing around a little bit. I want to get to questions that involve this Vikings-Bengals game that's coming up in 8 minutes. Mixon, Bijan, Ford, Moss. You can only pick two. Well, Bijan is in, and I guess I would go Mixon over Moss. I'm going back to the well with Zach Moss. I do think he will come through with some volume, but not over a guy like Joe Mixon. I got to play Mixon. And Bijan is a must start going up against the Carolina Panthers. those first two. You're playing those first two running backs. You're playing Bijan and you're playing Mixon. Okay, back up to where I left off. Waddle or Puka? You can only play one of these guys. I mean, you have the luxury of waiting until tomorrow to see what happens with Tyreek Hill. I would say tentatively, I would guess I would go Jalen Waddle even if Tyreek Hill is in. Jalen Waddle does very well against the Jets defense and the way that they run their defense. Waddle historically does well against the Jets defensive scheme. And he did just that on Black Friday against the Jets last month. I guess I would go Waddle, even though I do quite like Puka tomorrow against the Rams. Or against the Commanders. I like the Rams offense tomorrow in general. I think they're going to eat against the Commanders, but I'll take Waddle slightly over Puka, especially if Tyreek Hill can't go. I'll give the slight nod to Waddle. Bengals or Colts defense, I would go the Colts. I'll go the Colts. I feel a little bit better about them. At home in the Dome against Trubisky. And I think they're a slightly better unit top to bottom than the Bengals are, although the Bengals have been good at home. The Vikings playmakers worry me a little bit more than the Steelers playmakers. I'll say the Colts. Let's see. Where did I leave off? Half PPR. Warren, Ridley, Lockett. Ridley. He should see another 10 to 12 targets. It's not a great matchup by the numbers. It is a good matchup for Warren by the numbers. But I would give the slight nod to Ridley just because Warren continues to be in a committee with Najee Harris. I'll say Ridley is your safe play. Warren is maybe more of an all or nothing play. I think I would just go Ridley, even though it's not a great spot against the Ravens. You would think he sees a lot of volume, 10 to 12 targets. I'll say Ridley. It's close, but I'll say Ridley. Oh my God, I missed. Sorry, Armando. Ty Chandler, Najee Harris. Did I get this one? Yeah, the first two. Ty Chandler and Najee Harris. Play Chandler. He should have plenty of volume in this game coming up here. Chandler and Najee over Ford and Spears. Let's see. Where am I at? Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, Walker, and Olave pick 2. Olave's questionable tomorrow. Oh, and Terry. Not Terry. Olave is questionable tomorrow after missing practice, I think, all this week. So between Warren, Najee, and Walker, I guess I would play Walker. I like Walker at home. And then it's between Najee and Warren. I guess I would say Warren. It's close, but Najee's on the injury report, so I'll lean Warren, and then I'll take Walker at home. Yeah, Warren and Walker. I'll take those two. Do you play Montgomery or Rachaad White in full PPR? I would play Montgomery and White. If you want to play Gibbs, that's totally fine. I understand, but I would actually play those other two guys. I would play Montgomery and White in full PPR. Obviously, Gibbs is super enticing, but Montgomery at home feels like a layup, feels like a lock, and Rachaad White is a top 5 option this week because he has been an absolute stud for the past 6 or 7 weeks. I don't think you can sit Rachaad White. I would actually sit Gibbs, which I don't really want to do, but Montgomery and Rachaad White I have over Jahmyr Gibbs this week. They are both ahead of Gibbs in my rankings this week. I would actually sit Gibbs for Montgomery for both of those other options. I would sit both. Chandler over Gibson, yes. Both have expanded opportunities here today, but Chris Rodriguez will mix in a little bit for Washington. I don't know who else could possibly mix in for the Vikings. I think it's the Ty Chandler show. Whatever that looks like, I think Ty Chandler's going to get all those opportunities. Zay Jones, Marquise Brown, Noah Brown, Zay Flowers, and Trey McBride. Those last two, I would go Flowers against the Jags. Great matchup. And I would go McBride. The 49ers are banged up on defense, and McBride has been killing it over the past month or 6 weeks or so. Marquise Brown's on the injury report. Zay Jones is like a wide receiver 3. Noah Brown is questionable. Go those last two. Go Flowers and McBride. Yep, I like Mixon today. I got Jamar Chase over Devontae. I would go Chuba over Javonte and Najee Harris. If you have Tennessee available to you, I like Tennessee over Indy and Cincinnati. I like Tennessee more than those other two options. Like, they're playing Case Keenum, and they're not going to have Nico Collins or Tank Dell, the Texans. I like Tennessee over those other options. The Chiefs versus the Browns. Flip a coin. Both are great. Both are great options in great matchups. I guess I would give the slight nod to the Browns because they're at home, but honestly, you can't go wrong. Both are really good options. Chiefs in New England. I guess I prefer the home team. I guess I would go the home team. But you could flip a coin. Slight nod to the Browns. A slight nod to Browning over Mayfield, even though I don't feel spectacular about it. Yeah, got that. Mixon and Bijan over Ford and Moss. Yes. And then Jay, if you have the Colts or if you have the Titans available to you, I would play them over the Bengals or the Colts. Ridley, Jerome Ford, Amari Cooper, Hollywood, Nico Collins is out. So of those options, in half PPR, Cooper's off the injury report, so that's good. I would give the slight nod to Ridley catching passes from Trevor Lawrence over Amari Cooper catching passes from Joe Flacco. I'll take Ridley, Theo. I'll take Calvin Ridley. Hollywood's on the injury report. I'll take Ridley. Full PPR. Kyron Williams, Alvin Kamara, Amon-Ra, the running backs. Kyron Williams is the RB2 as far as rankings go, behind Christian McCaffrey. The volume is there. The matchup is there. Kyron Williams has been so freaking good. You have to play Kyron Williams. And you got to play Alvin Kamara. He's been an RB1. He's been an easy RB1, layup RB1 since the beginning of the season when he came back from that suspension. You have to play. Amon-Ra's a stud, but you have to play those two running backs. You have to. Are the Eagles a good option at defense this week? Hopefully not. I don't think I would. I mean, on the road, tough spot against Seattle. They're banged up in the. They have no linebackers. They're down Darius Slay in the secondary. They've been weak in the secondary even with him. No, I would pivot. I would pivot off of the Eagles. I would pivot off of the Eagles. Let's see. PPR, 2 wide receivers and a flex. Puka, Flowers, Wilson, Deontay, Moss, and Ford. I would go Puka. I think he's got a great matchup against the Commanders. I would go Garrett Wilson because he's been good. You know, he's delivered more weeks than not, even with all the turmoil that the Jets have gone through this year. I would give Garrett Wilson the slight nod over Flowers. And honestly, I might go Moss in the flex. I'm going to go back to the well with the volume. I know that the numbers haven't been there for Zach Moss the past couple of weeks, but he's at home. He's going to get the volume for one more week. The Steelers just got gashed by Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner the past 2 weeks. I'll go back to the well one more week with Zach Moss. Puka, Garrett Wilson, Zach Moss in the flex. Honestly, though, again, if you can put a running back in the flex that's playing tomorrow and put Moss in one of the running back spots, I always like saving those flex spots until I absolutely have to use them. But whatever you got to do. Puka, Wilson, Moss. That's where I would go. And yep, I'm okay. I'm not worried about the matchup for tomorrow. I know the 49ers are a tough defense, but Trey McBride has been a stud since he emerged as the guy at tight end for the Arizona Cardinals. And with Arizona's wide receivers on the injury report, I feel fine about Trey. You'll be all right. I got Chandler over Gibson. Hopefully you went with that. With this game kicking off, I'll let y'all go shortly here so y'all can watch the game. Start 2 between Jerome Ford, Jaylen Warren, and Calvin Ridley. I'll take the last 2. I'll take Ridley. I got to imagine that he gets regularly involved catching passes from Trevor Lawrence at home, even though the matchup isn't great. And I'll take Warren over Ford just because Warren is oh man, T. Higgins. Oh, he dropped it. Come on, man. Ridley, increased volume without Christian Kirk at home, catching passes from Trevor Lawrence, who was removed from the injury report, by the way. And I'll take Warren because he is the healthy guy in his committee. Najee Harris is apparently fine. He's going to suit up, but he's dealing with the knee injury. I'll take Warren over Ford. They're both in committees, but Warren is playing with a banged-up Najee Harris. I don't think there's an injury designation for Kareem Hunt. There's Chase Brown with a catch and a broken tackle and a first down. Oh, boy. All right. Wheels up on Chase Brown, apparently. Do I like Kelsey this week? You have to. You have to. You have to play Travis. I know. I get it. I know it's a bad matchup. It's New England. Belichick takes tight ends away. Blah, blah, blah. All that. You have to play Kelsey. You have to play. You cannot. Yes, I like Travis Kelsey every week because I have no choice. I have to like Kelsey. I have no choice. I don't see Joe Mixon so far. Chase Brown is getting the first opportunities on this drive, although he just got stopped for a loss. I got to imagine that'll change here shortly. Yes, you have to play Kelsey. You have to play Kelsey. I like McKinnon. No, I would still go Ridley and Warren. I don't hate McKinnon this week, but it is a bad matchup, and so if I can find alternatives, I will. Yeah, I would play Warren and I would play Ridley. We're at the end of the chat, and obviously one of these games has already kicked off. If anybody needs any last-minute thoughts or has any questions about anything, y'all can hit me in Discord. If you don't have a Discord, I think it's free to sign up. It's just an app. Second link in the description of this stream and all of the videos on my channel. If you have any last-minute thoughts that you want to run by me or this channel's community, you can join me in Discord. I'll be available later today. I'll be available tomorrow. I will go live tomorrow again, 11 a.m. Eastern, for any last-minute thoughts going into the full Sunday slate. So if you have any last-minute questions or thoughts that you want to run by me, you can hit me over there in Discord. There's nothing wrong with Ford's matchup, but the Bears have been playing a little bit better on defense recently. And again, he's in a full-blown committee with Kareem Hunt. He's in a full-blown committee with Kareem Hunt. So that's why I like Warren. And yes, Warren's in a committee with Najee Harris as well, but Najee Harris is on the injury report. That's the difference for me. Is Najee fine? I guess probably. But he is on the injury report. That's the difference. That's the difference for me. That's why I prefer Warren over somebody like Ford. I'll take Warren. Connor, Ford, or Ridley in half PPR, Theo? I mean, I guess I would still go back to the well with Ridley. Connor gets a bit of a break with some of the injuries on San Francisco's defense, but they're still a tough unit. Um, and he didn't do particularly well in their last matchup against them. Oh man, Jamar Chase is a beast. Jamar Chase is still a stud. Yeah, nice catch on a little like wheel route. Let's see. Yeah, Theo, I would still go Ridley. Connor gets a bit of a bit of a break with the 49ers injuries on defense, but they are still a tough unit. I'll take Ridley over those running backs. And Lions, Texans, or Titans, I'll take the Titans. They're playing Case Keenum. The Texans are without Noah Brown. Or excuse me, they might be without Noah Brown, but if Noah Brown's able to play, he's going to be their wide receiver one. They're without Nico Collins. They're already without Tank Dell. The offensive line is banged up. Give me the Titans. The Titans have a couple injuries on defense as well, but again, they're playing Case Keenum. I'll take Tennessee. If those are your best options, I'll take Tennessee. I'll take Tennessee. No, Tennessee over all of those defenses. Again, one more time, y'all can join me in Discord if you're not already in there. Second link in the description of this live stream. If you've got any questions later that you want to run by me, I can help out over there as I'm available. The community is also over there for crowdsourcing questions and all that good stuff. You can also leave a comment on any videos if you haven't, in the form of a question, in the form of a comment on any videos. It could be this stream. It could be whatever you need to do. And then, of course, I will go live again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, ahead of the full slate. If you want to run anything by me again that pertain to games tomorrow that don't involve players going today, we can talk shop then as well. Enjoy the slate. Enjoy the games. Best of luck to everybody. Yours is a pick too, Theo. Then I guess I would go Connor. I would go Ridley. I would go Connor over Ford. It's close. I feel like I'm picking against Ford in every situation today. I don't hate Ford, but there are other options that I just prefer. Connor is the bell cow. Ford will continue to cede work to Kareem Hunt. And at home with those wide receivers banged up for Arizona, I would think James Conner is a decent floor play. I would think that Conner is a decent floor play. I would go, and then Moss. I would go Moss over Flowers. I'm going back to the well. I'm going back to the well with Zach Moss and the expected volume. Pittsburgh, Moss's opponent, the past 2 weeks got absolutely lit up by James Conner and Ezekiel Elliott. And Moss had a touchdown called back due to a penalty. If those fortunes reverse course today, we're feeling good about Zach Moss giving you a decent RB2 floor. I would go Moss. Flowers is a strong upside play, but I'm leaning the running back. Well, that trick play that the Bengals just ran did absolutely nothing. Appreciate my new subs. I see I've got a few more, so appreciate that. Thank you guys thinking enough to sub to the channel. Appreciate that. Yeah, again, I would go Moss. I would go Moss over Flowers. Flowers should be just fine, but I think Moss can come through with some volume at home against a defense that just got lit up by Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner the past 2 weeks. And where is Kyler for me? An elite. I mean, not an elite. I would put him as a low-end QB1. I wouldn't play him over I wouldn't play him over like your obvious options. Like your options, Allen, Hurts, Lamar, Dak, Purdy. I would put Stafford in the layup conversation this week with his matchup against Washington. I would play Fields. I would probably play Jordan Love given the matchup. I would probably play Sam Howell given the matchup. And then like Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence, even though their situations are less than ideal, I would play them over Kyler. But I would play Kyler over anybody else. Tua, Russ, uh, Geno Smith, or Drew Lock, whoever suits up for Seattle. And then, your middle, Jared Goff. Obviously, Browning already kicked off. Mullins already kicked off. I would play Kyler over Mayfield, over Minshew, over Flacco. Kyler is probably around like QB 12. He's probably around QB 12. Zach Moss or David Montgomery? Montgomery. Play your Lions running backs at home. Play your Lions running backs at home. I don't dislike Zach Moss to come through with some decent volume today, but Montgomery is a stud at home. Got to play Montgomery. What's going on, Callie? Good to see you, man. Matt Gay or Will Lutz as your kicker. Well, first of all, I think I like Tennessee. What? Oh shoot, you have Miami. Against the Jets. I think you just rock with the Dolphins. I know Zach Wilson has been playing better, but I think you just rock with the Dolphins. If you are worried about the fact that Zach Wilson has been playing a little bit better, then I would go Tennessee. I mean, they get Case Keenum. And that offense is without Nico Collins. It's without Tank Dell. It's a banged up offensive line. I think I would ultimately go Miami. I would ultimately go Miami. I mean, even against an improved Zach Wilson, I think I got to go Miami at home. As far as your kicker question, the Colts have the Steelers at home, so that's a pretty good spot. Will Lutz is on the road in the Dome tonight. Let's see. Who's been giving up points over the past 4 weeks? Oh, boy. There goes Chandler for a nice 9-yard gain to kick things off. The Lions have been a pretty good matchup for opposing kickers the past 4 weeks, so that should be a good spot for Lutz. The Steelers have been not the best matchup for opposing kickers the past couple of weeks, but it is a home game. If the Colts offense stalls out a little bit here and there, that could be a good spot for Gay to kick some long field goals. He certainly has the leg for it. I guess between the two, I'll take the guy kicking at home. I'll say Gay. I'll say Matt Gay, Callie. So I'll say Miami as your defense. I'll say Gay as your kicker. And I would play Flacco over Tommy DeVito or Zach Wilson. I would play Flacco. He's got Amari Cooper back healthy. He's got a good offensive line. He's at home, so you feel a little bit better about that. I would take Flacco. DeVito, that's a bad matchup against the Saints. Um, and Wilson, I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not there. I know he's playing better. He's been playing better since he returned to the lineup. I'm not there yet with him. I'll take Flacco, who has thrown the ball 45 times in his two starts with Cleveland. I think it was maybe one was 44. 44 and 45 pass attempts in his first two starts. The volume is there. I'll take Flacco at home. Um, who are the Jets playing the next couple of weeks? There's a lot of good streaming options on defense. But the Jets are certainly, they're definitely talented enough to come through. Week 16 and 17, who do they have? Washington and Cleveland? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You could do worse. That's not bad. You could do worse. Cooper or Pittman? Pittman. Pittman's been a stud this year. Pittman's been an absolute stud this year. Cooper's been a little bit more up and down. And it's not a great, it's not the best matchup by the numbers, but at home, and both guys are at home, but Pittman's just been more consistent. Pittman's been more consistent. I can't take him out of my lineup. Not at home. I got to play Pittman. If you can only play one, I got to play Pittman. Howell or Kyler, Theo? It's a slight nod. It's a slight nod to Sam Howell because of the matchup. DJ Reader is being carted off. That is a loss for the Bengals defensive line. That's not great. That's not great. He was at the bottom of a pile. Not great. I would give the slight nod, Theo, to Howell over Kyler. I don't dislike Kyler this week, but I would play Howell over him given the matchup. The game script is going to be in his favor for the rest of the year because of how bad the Commanders' defense is. I think the Rams are going to have a field day. The line on this game is like 50.5, so a lot of points are expected between the Rams and the Commanders. I would go Howell. Kyler, even though they're banged up, Kyler has to play the 49ers. Howell gets the Rams. They're not as scary. Achane or Zach Moss? I think I got this earlier. My answer is Zach Moss. Achane is on the injury report. And while Achane is the upside play, no question, the upside play, he's on the injury report again. Moss is not. Has a pretty good matchup at home. I know he hasn't delivered the past couple of weeks, but the volume has been there. I got to think it course corrects a little bit today. I got to think Zach Moss's fortunes turn around a little bit today. I'm going back to the well with him. Obviously, you want to wait on a guy like Achane, but he's on the injury report with this toe injury. If your best option is a guy like Zach Moss who is playing today, I would just go Zach Moss. I would just go Zach Moss. Josh Palmer rest of season, impossible to trust. I mean, I know he had a big run, or a big run. I know he had a big catch and run for a score against the Raiders, but I mean, how much confidence do we have in Easton Stick for the rest of the season? They got to play Buffalo next week, and then I think they play Denver the week after that. So if Keenan Allen is out, Josh Palmer's going to see Patrick Surtain. Forget about it. I don't love him. Jaylen Warren or Aaron Jones? Warren. I don't know if Aaron Jones is going to play. And if he does play, I don't know how effective he's going to be. We haven't seen him for like a month. Warren, you got to play Warren over Jones. I don't. I don't know what we're going to get from. I don't know what we're going to get from Jaylen Warren, or excuse me, from Aaron Jones. And on the flip side for Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris is on the injury report. He's expected to play, but does that mean that Warren sees a few more opportunities today? Warren, we don't even know if Aaron Jones is going to play. Remember, Aaron Jones was like looking likely to suit up last week, and then he didn't play. The reports were that Aaron Jones was going to play on Monday night against the Giants, and then they ruled him out. So we can't play Aaron Jones right now. We just can't. We can't play Aaron Jones right now. Yeah, it's got to be Warren. Man, Ty Chandler is running well. He is running well. Kupp, Waddle, or Cooper. If you can only pick one, it's Kupp. It's too good of a matchup against Washington. And Kupp showed signs of life last week against Baltimore in a gross matchup in the rain. It's got to be Kupp. I'm not sure I don't know what you mean by this question. Would Achane be the best to replace Zach Moss? I mean, well, you're playing Bijan, you're playing Derrick Henry both tomorrow. But I mean, I think you have to play Zach Moss today. Achane is on the injury report. We don't even know if he's going to play. And if he gets into the game, I mean, he's like a higher risk guy for re-injury at this point because he's been in and out of the lineup. He's been in and off on and off the injury report. I don't think we can play with any type of confidence. Oh man, Ty Chandler. Did he get in? He's down at the 1. Ty Chandler is feasting right now. I would just play Zach Moss. I would play Bijan Henry and Zach Moss. I would not play Achane. There's too much risk. If you have a guy like Zach Moss going today in a good matchup where he's going to get more volume, Achane's too risky. Achane is too risky. And Ty Chandler is in for the touchdown. What a drive for Ty Chandler. Holy shit. Did I suggest Ty Chandler for most of you guys? I already forget. I freaking hope so. He just delivered an RB2 performance on the day on one drive, the opening drive. God damn. All right. Wheels up on Ty Chandler. Okay. We're at the end of the chat. I can stick around a bit longer. Obviously, we've got only one game going on right now, but we've got a couple more going on tonight. Again, you can hit me in Discord. Second link in the description of this live stream and all of the videos and streams on my channel. You can find it over there if you want to join and ask me questions later. But we are at the end of the chat. So I think everybody's good for today. I will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, if you want to sort through anything for the Sunday slate. So be sure to tune in then. And again, you can hit me in Discord if you would like to. But I think that's it. As we approach the bottom of the hour, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this thing down. But appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out, talking shop. Appreciate my new subs. Thank you, Tiago, for the super. Very kind of you. And again, best of luck to everybody in your playoff matchups. And I will see you guys tomorrow if anybody needs any last-minute help ahead of the Sunday slate. Thanks, everybody. Good luck in your matchups. Let's get these dubs.